gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast where we're watching the end of the radical left. Gosh, I hope so. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back. Another edition of the Right Guys podcast. Happy Monday. My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. Doing some audio testing. Let me know in the comments if our audio is good. If my audio is good. If Mr. Producer Josh's audio is good. We've been kind of out of sync. Trying to get this figured out. So let us know if the audio is weird or not.
Yeah.
So I put this title in, Josh, and we don't always get to talk about the titles before we go live, but I'm getting this feeling more and more. Not that it's the end of necessarily truly the radical left, leftism, wokeism, but it's the end of almost like the carte blanche control that these people have over our economy, over our politics, over our culture, over social norms. The idea that someone can come out and say, oh, we just invented a new gender pronoun and everyone has to be gaslit into believing that it was always that way. I think that hold on people is gone and or disappearing pretty fast. Mm-hmm. And the deference that people are giving to elected politicians, like you look at Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom wasn't elected to do the things he was doing. Gavin Newsom was elected to run the economy, keep people of California safe, right? And he's been going off on these side quests for years. And you can get away with the side quests as long as the sky isn't falling, as long as there isn't complete catastrophe. Fires that are burning entire neighborhoods and not like shantytowns, multi-million-dollar home neighborhoods, entire cities going up. All of a sudden you look and say, okay, well, we've been talking about this on the podcast, but why isn't there water in the fire hydrants? Why didn't the fire departments have enough staff, have enough equipment, right? Why didn't anyone go out into the forest and clear the brush and clear the deadfall? And the answer is, oh, we didn't have money. And then you look at, oh, what did you spend the money on? They just expanded, Josh, this January 1st, healthcare benefits, state-funded healthcare benefits for illegal aliens above the age of 26. So previously, it had applied to like retirement age. Now it's 26 up. How much fire preparedness could you have done with $2.6 billion? And that's the estimate. It'll be higher than that. How many homes could you protect? Because you know the cost right now is above $2.6 billion. Right? Lord. If you had put that preparedness money into actually making sure that the water system worked, making sure that underbrush had been cleared out, I don't know if you'd have this situation. You probably still would have fires. I don't think you'd have massive destruction to this level.
There's an old saying that I used to get in anthropology classes was that when a culture is ready for change, it happens. Like it has to be ready for it, right? When you look at all the DEI stuff and all the liberal crusades that were created, our culture, our American culture wasn't ready for it, right? It was kind of rammed down people's throats. And they were told to accept it no matter what. If you don't do it, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, we hate you, and we want you to die, right? That is not a cultural change. That's forcing a culture on another, right? That's also another form of just thinking that your culture is higher than the others. And that's what we got. That's what was shoved down our throats. And then we started seeing that culture change start hitting into our economies, right? It started hitting into businesses. It started going into social media. It started, all these octopus tentacles going out and they're just trying to spread this crazy liberal ideas. And what ends up happening is that there's great resistance to it. And two, you realize that it wasn't very good to start with, right? It was something that people didn't want. And the outcomes are no water in fire hydrants, right? Tampons in men's bathrooms, things that people didn't want. They never wanted it.
They never wanted it, but life was good enough for them to not care. I mean, people like us, we care because we understand the ramifications. But if you're just putting your head down, nose to the grindstone, working your 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or overtime, getting home, putting food on the table, falling asleep in the reclining armchair because you're just so tired, just that tired, you don't have time to worry about what the elementary school is putting in the bathrooms. You don't,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think what's changed is obviously inflation caused a lot of pain, a lot of very real pain for a lot of people. And when they looked up, they saw the Democrat politicians that they had elected off doing these side quests, right? And then when they try and hold the Democrat politicians accountable, the Democrats basically try to whip up a small try and whip up a base to support themselves, who really only care about the side quests. Men should be able to play in women's sports. Oh, we need the tampons in the boys' bathrooms. Oh, we need this, woke, DEI, all that, right? If you get enough people who care about that out to vote, you can keep your position safe. And that's what the Democrats have always done. Yeah. The Democrat coalition is not a coalition of people who agree with each other. I mean, it's been remarkable to me how you can have Jews and Arabs in the same coalition when very obviously their interests are diametrically opposed to one another, at least internationally. So you have this issue with the Democrat Party where you don't have a cohesive thing working through all of it. They tried to make that abortion that cohesive element. They tried to make abortion the thing that would unite the young, the old, the black, the white.
Right.
That's what they tried to do. Didn't quite work. Because at the end of the day, the things that people care about aren't the things that the Democrats are trying to push. Mm-hmm. And we can see it with the Joe Biden approval ratings. I'm going to put that on the screen.
All-time low?
All-time low.
Shocking.
Well, it's at or near an all-time low, but basically all-time low. There might have been a little tick. Now, there have been...
Sustained low.
There have been polls, the individual polls that have been lower, but this is the 538, which is not a right-leaning polling outfit, showing an average approval rating of 35.6%. That is a disapproval swing of plus 21.5. 21.5% more Americans disapprove of Joe Biden. You look at Donald Trump, even on this leftist, left-leaning polling aggregator, he is about to cross into net favorability. There's one or two polls like this one, this tip insights. If this poll hadn't come out from the League of American Workers, probably would have had him, because the last two were 50 to 49, 49 to 47, probably would have had Trump ahead. This shows a very significant trend away from leftism, and it's very obvious. I mean, you see that Donald Trump ad promising to get boys out of girls' bathrooms and saying that that's all the Democrats care about. You saw how that had a tremendous impact. And I just want to show you what it was like when Donald Trump was actually in office, when people were allowing the left and the mainstream media to spin up this disapproval of Trump. When Donald Trump was in office, his approval never exceeded 44%. 44% was the high, and that was right before COVID. Then everything went to shit.
Yeah.
So just to put in perspective, he is 47% favorable now. He hasn't taken office yet. Now, there might be some growing pains, but he is going to go into office with a net favorability rating.
Which is wild. And what it all stems from is that liberalism has been nothing but a series of promises. Promises over and over. We're going to make everybody equal. We're going to get you your fair share. We're going to try to make your life better. And what everybody realizes is that liberalism is nothing but empty promises. It's been nothing but empty promises for a long, long time. And it doesn't shock me that Biden's approval ratings are tanking, because how many promises did he make? You know, he promised not to pardon Hunter. That happened.
Yeah.
He promised not to go after Donald Trump. Well, I guess it happened.
And he's privately complaining that Merrick Garland didn't go against him faster. Keep going.
And it's just promises, right? They promise the world. Liberal politics promises the world. And they promise you things that you think you want. Like you want everybody to have like equal outcome. You want everybody to be fair, fair playing ground and all that stuff. But where liberalism takes a turn is that they go from making promises to doing weird things behind the scenes, because they'll tell you, they're all for businesses working, but behind the scenes, you have to adhere to so many DEI policies in order for you to get a loan or something, or to even work with the government, right? And it's not shocking to see liberalism start taking a real turn towards the ground because of that. It's nothing but empty promises, and it has been for a long time. And people didn't realize it. They didn't realize it until there was no water in the fire hydrants.
No,
The
they didn't
moment
realize it.
that happened, that's
They didn't
when
realize it.
it has completely changed.
It's a
And the
wake
other
up.
thing,
It's a wake up call.
it is, because now you got them looking into places they never thought they should be. Liberals love it when you don't look at the work they're actually doing. They
Yeah.
just want you to believe they're doing the work, right? The reservoirs are fine, right? The economy's doing great. Joe Biden never had a negative jobs report come out while he was
Until
president.
no, there were they edited them afterwards. There was never a really, really, really super bad jobs report
Yeah.
that came out initially. They always got adjusted down after the fact to the point where they would release these numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you just say, "I don't believe them."
Exactly.
Talk to me in 30 days when you release the real numbers, and the real numbers were always worse. Were always worse.
And liberalism is okay with lying to you, right? They're okay with promising you and then lying to you, and then not showing up with what they promised when time comes. But every time an election comes around, it starts all over again. We get the same rebranding over and over and over. We're here to help single moms, keep our hands off women's health care. Like, how long is the playbook going to sit there and be believed?
Did you see though? Did you see this?
It's just wild, man.
Here is Gavin Newsom. Let me share it. Gavin Newsom put out this tweet. Did you see this? Calling for people to donate and go to this website to learn more. CaliforniaFireFacts.com. It leads to his campaign website.
Yeah, I saw that.
So these aren't like independent government things. It was a campaign website. And once you get there, it invites you to contribute through, what's that at the bottom right there?
Is that
Act Blue. It's hard to zoom in.
Blue.
Act Blue.
Wow.
Act Blue. Here, let me do this one. Here we go.
Hey, so he's
Act
making the
Blue.
claim California didn't cut fire departments? Yeah, California didn't, but LA did.
Oh, he's making all the lies. All the lies. But Act Blue is the Democrats' fundraising aggregator. So if you're a Democrat organization campaign, you run through Act Blue. So Act Blue collects 3.95, I believe, % of every donation.
We're in the wrong business.
This is set up to go to a couple of different charities that have their own payment processing that takes less percentages out. So Gavin Newsom sending people to this Act Blue donation link, if they had gone to directly to, it's like the Firemen's Foundation, whatever it is, they could donate and have none of their money go to Democrat political organizing, and more of their money actually go to the charities that they're selecting. They were trying to funnel this. Elizabeth Warren got caught doing the same thing. And this is how Democrats launder money through these organizations. Yeah. They use their official mouthpieces to call for people to donate through Act Blue. Act Blue collects all of this money, and then Act Blue will advertise on leftist podcasts, and it's a vicious cycle, right? And that's to pump money into the podcasts and the influencers that are propping up this scheme. But I don't know if you saw this either. This came out today from Axios. The Democrats are planning what they're saying is a $10 million opening salvo. It says 2026, but it's going to be 2025, 2026, going into next year. $10 million in ads. And their plan, according to this report, is that they are going to try and blame Republicans for Joe Biden's inflation. So unless Donald Trump lowers everyone's grocery costs on day one, they're going to say, look, he lied. Wow. Now, I'm already noticing that things are starting to come down because you're not having the government crazy policies that have been driving these things up. I think that Donald Trump's going to bring prices down. You might see spikes here and there when gas goes up a little bit when something happens in the Middle East. But I truly expect grocery prices to continue going down. I think everyone does. But to say our big plan big plan is we're going to blame Republicans for the pain that the Biden presidency caused. It's almost like they haven't learned their lesson yet.
No, and we're not gonna tell them they are. First off, when Newsom is using a tragedy like these fires to maybe raise money for his campaign, that should tell you everything you need to know about him personally and what he stands for, right? You never let a good tragedy go to waste. That's disgusting. Like, that really pissed me off. The second part is that I hope they go out and they stick to this plan, because if it is drill baby drill, just unleashing energy is going to lower prices. I mean, that's just how it works. If the food costs less to get to your grocery stores and to wherever it needs to go, prices are going to go down. So we let them do this, right? I mean, $10 million for them in a campaign slush fund like that is nothing. If they're willing to blow $2 billion on Kamala's run, then like, let them. But maybe they should put a $10 million run into how they'll try to make American lives better, how to make America better, how to make your life better, right? But they're not. They only have the blame game.
Yeah.
And this is like 3 or 4 cycles now in the presidential race, or at least some of these political races, where that's all they're running on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Up and down bat, and that's all they've got. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is the end.
The difference is, and this is why I think they're going to face an uphill battle trying to retain that power. The difference is they don't have anymore a strong, independent fact-checking group to bolster their bullshit.
Yeah.
Facebook dropping their independent fact checkers. Twitter, years ago under Musk, dropped independent fact checkers. Fact checkers used to be the most powerful job in politics because you were literally the arbiter of truth. I remember when we were with Conservative Daily, we would put out articles and do podcasts, and we get fact checked. And I remember looking into one. I forget the name of the organization. They're still there, but they don't have nearly as much power as they used to. They were fact checking me about a UN policy, and I looked and saw who it was. It was a entertainment reporter.
Yeah.
He did bits for the E network, like Hollywood reporting. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, who are you? I don't like to puff my chest, right? Like, I have a master's degree in political science. Who are you to just declare that I'm wrong? And there's no recourse. There's no debate. There's no appeal process. He just got to declare I was wrong, and he went about his day. And that stuck on the internet. And it hurt our reach. It hurt our revenue for a couple weeks.
It hurt Republicans.
Yeah. So that was just me. And ultimately, in the end, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter. But it was happening to everyone. You'd post something, and the fact checkers say, oh, it's misleading. Oh, that lacks context.
Right.
It lacks context. No.
I remember that.
When you're using Facebook or using Twitter, it's not your job in 160 characters to provide all of the context for something. Anything can be argued to be lacking context. And this is how you know it's not working. So one of the stories about the California wildfires is, why wasn't there water in the hydrants? Why didn't they build new reservoirs? And one of the reasons that they didn't want to build new reservoirs is that they wanted to make sure that the water didn't get rerouted, because they wanted to protect a fish that no one has seen in 6 years. It is the Delta smelt. It's a little tiny fish. I'm going to see if I can find a picture of it.
Yeah.
The
I think I
Delta
saw a picture of it,
Delta smelt. It is very tiny
fish. Yeah. With little stripes on it, right? Is that what it was? Yeah.
Here it is. It's a Delta smelt. It looks like a sardine, but it's a Delta smelt. And apparently, if you reroute water and change the water going from where to where, the water conditions in the Delta would change, and that would potentially hurt this fish. Now, that fish hasn't been seen or caught by California Fish and Wildlife or anyone reporting it in 6 years. It seems to be gone. And yet, they are continuing to have a policy around protecting something that they can't even prove exists. Right? And so that was one partial reason for why the water wasn't rerouted the way that voters wanted it when they voted to basically build new reservoirs, bolster the water grid. Now you're seeing these fact checkers say, oh, falsely blaming the LA wildfires on Delta protection and the imperiled smelt is distorting the picture of water in California. In the old days, this kind of article would fact check everyone.
Yeah.
If you post about this on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, you'd be immediately censored. And anyone who saw you talking about this would see, I don't know, who is this? Oh, SNR staff. So we don't even know.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
Could be AI.
Right? Yeah. That's gone. That's gone. You have to engage in the argument of ideas and confronting this by saying, oh, well, that's not the only problem. No one's saying that's the only problem, but it is part of the problem. And there is a non-zero number of people who lost their houses. It's not a zero, but it's more than zero. Don't know how many, but some lost their houses because California chose to protect a non-existent, can't be found fish over doing what it actually took to make sure there was enough water in a situation like this.
Are you surprised that Gavin Newsom is on the video call with Biden as the fires are happening, and his biggest complaint is to stop the misinformation?
Yeah, we gotta
What
stop
that
it.
tells me, they're worried that they don't control the narrative anymore. That's all
Yeah.
they care about. We have to look positive. We have to make sure that when it comes to voting time, we've looked as good as we can. We'll lie our way through anything. They've been doing it for 60 years. But they want to control misinformation. You showed a picture of I'd call it like a $4 billion fish, right? Because
Yeah.
when this is all said and done, and we look at all of the structures lost and all the damage done, it's probably going to be a $4 to $6 billion bill for California, if not more, right?
Yeah.
So this non-existent fish is worth $6 billion. Is it worth every home
No.
that was lost? Historic homes in Hollywood that can't be replaced. It's madness. And it's madness, and it's environmentalism, it's liberalism, and it's what you voted for. If you live in California, this is what you voted for. Like I want to blame liberalism. I want to blame California. Like I want to blame California, but you can't. I don't want to blame anybody. Like this is just liberal politics. This is what you get
blame
when you
them.
vote for it. Then I'm blaming Californians for this. I mean, they started their own fires here. And it's horrible to say, but. I mean, it's the whole reason you can't have more than like 6 rounds in a magazine or something stupid.
Yeah.
Everything has to have, no pistol grips. I mean, think of all the places in your life liberalism has crawled into, right? Just getting permits to build something, just being able to carry a gun. I mean,
absolutely. Last podcast, we talked about this lake, Tulare Lake or Tulare Lake.
Yeah.
It was the largest freshwater lake, west of the Mississippi.
Huh.
And these are early settlers, I want to say in the 1800s, mid-1800s, 1880.
Wow.
At the bank of this lake. It used to be huge. Like, here's one picture of it. It's just a
Monsters.
map. It was a big, big lake. And much of California used to be a lake. I mean, like, long time ago. It's since stopped. But what I've always found interesting is when it comes to a species like the Delta smelt, rather than accepting the fact that human interaction with the environment is what caused it, right? I mean, like, that Delta smelt would be love and life if this lake didn't get drained and all of the water didn't originally get rerouted. The cat's out of the bag. You can't undo what you've done, right? The question is, how much money do you waste to save this fish? Listen, I have fish tanks. I love fish, right? But if you came and tell me that this fish exists and it's and you're going to develop your water policy around something you can't even prove exists, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. And so the consequences of this were kind of written in stone the minute they started draining these lakes for farmland, rerouting water 150 years ago. It's baked in.
Yeah. California is almost in the Mojave Desert. You're in some of the driest parts of the world that exist, and you've got
Didn't
this
used to be that way.
water lake, You've got a freshwater lake. I mean, the whole reason they built Hoover Dam was to make sure that they could start backing up all that extra fresh water, right? And then when did they decide to start getting rid of the largest freshwater lake? I mean, just happens overnight. I mean, I'm thinking it's liberal policy. Why would you not want more fresh water? Anybody that lives anywhere will tell you that you need tons of fresh water for any given population. It befuddles me why they would want to drain that lake in these desert areas. I mean,
Well, they did it for farmland. They wanted more farmland. They wanted more agricultural land. I mean, it wasn't until 2012 that it was until 2012 it was illegal to capture rain from the sky and use it. I mean, and even now it's highly regulated. Like you can't. It's not unlimited. No, there's a lot of really dumb policies. I can understand the logic in a place like Colorado, where the rain that hits the ground is actually spoken for downriver, and there are agreements, long-standing agreements in place. It sucks. It's stupid, but these are 150 year plus agreements saying that the water in the river is owned by people downriver, right? So I can understand, at least in theory, but when you live in San Francisco or you live in Malibu, until 2012, you weren't able to allowed to collect rainwater. Who are you going to affect downriver? Right? You're on the coast, right? You're at the end. So the rules and regulations don't make sense. And that's what leftism does. It doesn't really ever make sense, but they expect us to just go along with it. And what crises and catastrophes and emergencies do is it cause people to actually pause and stop and say, whoa, what? You're telling me all this time? Because now we're learning that they've known for months that the water wasn't in those hydrants. So whoa. Yeah,
Whoa,
you're telling me.
Wait a minute. Sorry, Dean, I like rubbed my face here in a complete. I'm just pissed off here. I'm like, they knew
they've known for over a month that they did not have 100% coverage in every single hydrant in the area. They've known it for over a month. Now, what did they do about it? It seems that they twiddled their thumbs and hoped for the best, right? Because they obviously, yeah. I mean, but what can you do? What can you do when you've drained a reservoir for largely cosmetic repairs? What can you do? You're not going to put a water truck in front of every hydrant that doesn't work. That's not sustainable. That's not feasible. What are you going to do? What do you do when you've taken steps and taking actions that are not fixable, at least in the short term? You cover it up. You hide it.
Yeah.
You hope for the best and hope it doesn't actually come to pass.
And it was liberalism that allows the cover up, right? I mean, I forgot what Disney, Star Wars, whatever is watching, and they're like, the Empire, it's big, but it's really not that strong because when they make a mistake, they just hide it and they cover it up because they don't want to get caught. They'd rather not get caught. They'd rather just lie about it, right? And if that doesn't feel like fascism to you, I don't know what does, right? Because that's what the Empire essentially it represents is fascism. But when you got California Democrats doing the same thing as the Empire would do, like, you got to start thinking that maybe they're the bad guy here. Maybe the whole reason things have gone bad is because they have done some dumb shit. And knowing that people's lives were at risk, I would want to sue every single individual who was part of that fire department and the city and the state. Like, I'd be so pissed off. Like, when you drive people to places where they never thought they'd be, at least emotionally, people do weird things, man. And this is one of those events where it's like, you knew you were putting my life in risk and you did nothing about it.
Yeah.
That.
And I think what you're going to see, like they've already seen immigrant organizations protesting against the coming deportations, because Tom Homan said over the weekend that they're actually setting up a hotline where you can call and report illegal aliens who have committed crimes.
Fantastic.
Yes. He was asked, are there going to be collateral arrests? You're going after one illegal alien with a criminal record. You end up arresting the whole family that's here illegally. And Homan said, yes, it's not okay to live here illegally. And if we catch you through a collateral arrest, we're not just going to turn a blind eye. You're going home. There's going to be an effort in California, and we're starting to see it, It's going to be an effort to resist Trump, to resist. Right now, the California legislature is going into a special session. They had planned this before the fires to try and Trump-proof California, to make it harder for Trump to deport people, to make it harder for Trump policies to go into effect. And the juxtaposition now of the California emergency session to resist Trump, while fires are still going, people are still losing their home, there's still no answers, right? It's impossible to ignore.
Rings hollow.
And so California had the second worst housing crisis, maybe the first. When Trump was in office, it was the second worst. I believe now it's the worst housing crisis in the United States, where they would need to build 3 to 4 million housing units last month to put everyone under a roof.
Wow.
Obviously, that's changed since people's entire neighborhoods have burned to the ground.
Yeah.
That number just got larger. And something I didn't know about California is the regulations, the permitting costs, all of these costs have made it so that in order to build a home, it costs 2x what the home would actually be worth.
Whew.
Let me say that again. To build a home, to pull the permits, to get everything, it will cost you twice as much money than the finished product would actually be worth. You're going to pay for that, right? You're going to pay for a $400,000 home, but that's really only worth $200,000. You didn't actually get $400,000 worth of home. They're not going to be able to rebuild a lot of these areas.
No.
Right? Because depending on the insurance pricing, right? Let's say you have a $400,000 home, $500,000 home. It's going to cost $1 million to rebuild that same exact home, but you only have $500,000 in coverage.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? You're going to get $500,000. You're going to build a $250,000 home, which most Americans, that's plenty. California, that's a shed.
Yeah. Well, Max, you got to remember, that's the assumption that these people want to rebuild and don't sell. Right? Because the next thing is that we say, F it, it's too expensive, and they put the land up for sale at bargain basement prices, right?
Yeah.
And either somebody comes in and swoops it up, or the state says, hey, you know what? Maybe we should put a bunch of free housing for illegal immigrants up in Malibu, because now, everything has been destroyed. It's just kind of a crap hole anyway. I mean, nobody wants to live there. They're selling lands for nothing. Let's just build migrant shelters there. Let's build migrant homes, right? And now people of Hollywood, people of Malibu, people of the Hollywood elite have to look at this and say, who does the government think is more important? Illegal aliens or the citizens that pay the taxes?
Yep. And yeah, so the argument that we need to make sure there's a roof over every illegal alien's head, we need to make sure there's a warm meal in every illegal alien's belly, that rings much hollower when you are facing this crisis of immediate homelessness. Now, people who own these houses, many of them are very wealthy. Many of them are middle class for California standards, living paycheck to paycheck. Their homes are expensive, but many of them were house poor.
Yeah.
All of their equity was tied up in their homes. So I don't see how California fixes this, rebuilds, and also resists Trump. Because they're already saying on Capitol Hill today that the aid package for California will have strings attached. It will have strings attached, likely to do with water resources.
Wow.
If you want this money, you must do X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Well, it makes
You
sense.
must rebuild it in this way. Because that's what we do after a hurricane, right? We give relief, but if you owned a home and it wasn't in a flood zone, hurricane comes in, what do? They redraw the floodplains. And now all of a sudden, your house is in a flood zone. So there are strings attached to the aid. Yeah, you'll get the money to rebuild, but that house now has to go on stilts if you live on a shoreline.
And there's going to be other negotiation strings attached. Like, what if liberals get in there and they start saying, well, now you have to put up X amount of homes for multifamily homes.
That's what they're going to try and do. That's what they're going to try and do.
And now you're going to be, they're just going to build new homes for people who don't belong here, who are breaking the law just being here.
Yeah.
Like, you're not important anymore.
Those are the strings that need to be attached. Okay, California, you're going to get all this money to repair, even though all these houses should have been insured, and California has state insurance for many of these things. But fine, you're going to get money just like every state gets money when there's a natural disaster. Here are the strings attached. Not $1 can be used to house anyone in the country illegally.
Yeah. Like,
There,
we need Republicans to be on this, too.
Like that seems so common sense.
Yeah.
Right? And like, why resist that? And you're going to, if you can get that in the bill and you start getting Democrats resisting it, then you'll have another one of those, whoa, hold on. Whoa, wait a minute. You're not going to help the Americans because you want to help the illegal aliens, right?
Yeah.
There are schools that have burned down. You could put the strings attached in and says, yeah, you can rebuild the school as long as not one illegal alien occupies a single desk. That's how the left goes after Trump. Right?
Yeah.
They give him money for border detentions, but say, oh, you can only have so many beds. Right? That's how they play games with the funding to go after Trump. You got to play hardball. And that's not to say you don't want to help the people of California. There are a lot of people who need help. There's going to be shortfalls where insurance doesn't cover it. Things that were underinsured. Fine. Right? Need help. But that isn't a blank check for California to say, oh, yippee, we just got $4 billion. Let's put it towards DEI. Let's put it towards wokeism. Let's make sure that these multifamily housing units are trans friendly. Like that's the bullshit that they would throw into it. Like, so you got to add the strings attached. You got to make the strings attached. You have to. Otherwise, we're all idiots. We're all idiots because this will keep happening. Unless you force them to do the things that they have to do to fix this, it's just going to keep happening.
And let's not forget that they've been arresting illegal immigrants who were setting fires in these areas.
Yeah.
Now, why? Why would they do that? I mean, did somebody pay them to do that? I mean, what happens when we start investigating and start pulling on some threads here, start seeing where these strings lead?
Did you see that video?
Oh, yeah. I watched it. I was just looking for it for a second here, but imagine being in California legislature and you're like, yeah, let's just resist Trump as you've got illegals burning the city to the ground.
Well,
I mean,
they can't prove it. They can't prove it because they weren't there to see it. But he was walking around with a butane torch. Now, why would someone in a wildfire situation, why would you be walking through a neighborhood with a butane torch?
Fight fire with fire.
And I saw yeah. This is one of the doctorate illegal aliens we keep hearing about. He's gonna have controlled burns, right? Yeah, right. It was very obvious what he was doing, but since they can't prove it, they didn't catch him in the act. They had to get him on the parole violation. But that's the other thing. This is an illegal alien who has a parole violation. He's out on parole. That stems from California refusing to cooperate with ICE and law enforcement.
So again, California has the opportunity to stop something horrible, and liberal policies make sure that it happens. And if you're in other states that are just as liberal, I mean, this is coming to a town near you. You live in Colorado? It's like California light right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Any illegal alien that is eligible for a felony parole violation charge was eligible for deportation.
Yeah.
And the only reason he wasn't deported is because California refuses to honor ICE's detainer requests. Basically saying when the federal government realizes that an illegal alien, I write about this all in my book, The Conservative's Guide to Winning Every Immigration Argument. When the federal government realizes that an illegal alien is being released from a state prison or being let out on parole, they will send a fax, usually it's a fax, to that jail, that police department, say, hey, we noticed that this illegal alien is slated to be released soon. We'd like to take him into custody. Please work with our agents to facilitate that transfer. Now, any other time it's a federal charge, it's like, oh yeah, sure. Right? They're usually happy to do it. Oh, you're telling me that the guy who just skated on a state murder charge is now going to be picked up on federal murder charges? Yeah. We'll open the door right into the back of the paddy wagon, the federal van, right? Well, of course we'll help out. But the minute it's an illegal alien, it's, oh no, we won't help with that. We're going to let him back out. Even though he just was paroled, he let out on accusations of like sexually assaulting a minor We don't believe he should be removed from the country. We're going to let him back on the street. That's the policies. So when you have that illegal alien with a parole violation walking around these neighborhoods with a butane torch, the only purpose of that is to burn things. You start wondering, okay, why is this like this? And you start waking up looking around like, oh, it's my politicians. They care more about them than us.
Yeah. I mean, where's that great meme where that one character's sitting there, the room's on fire, and he's looking around, and it's like, this is good.
This is fine. This is good.
That's Gavin Newsom right now, right?
Yeah.
He's sitting in the room that's on fire. California's on fire. His political career is on fire. And the most he does is he's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to investigate this thing. And that's probably going to cost, a couple $1,000,000. But, we're not going to put that money into like a reservoir in case you wanted it. Just crazy, man. Like the world is on fire in California. This is what apocalypse looks like. Like if you were to go back in time to the 80s and you were to show people pictures of 2025, they would have said the world is ending, right? Put that in perspective,
Last episode, we showed a clip of Gavin Newsom walking into the car, getting confronted by a journalist who just happened to have her house burned down, lost her school. And he lied to her. So, I'm on the phone with the president right now. She said, okay, let me listen. Oh, by the way, it's not connected. I can't reach him. Oh, it's a lie. Here he was on NBC News just in the last 24 hours, bragging that, don't worry, we have a Marshall Plan. Marshall Plan was what rebuilt Europe after World War II. He said, we have our own Marshall Plan to rebuild California. The interviewer asked him, oh, what is it? Silence. Here we go.
Several years, Los Angeles will be host to the World Cup and then the Super Bowl and then the Olympics. With this rebuilding effort needing to take place, is LA going to be ready for all of those global events?
My humble position, and it's not just being naively optimistic, that only reinforces the imperative moving quickly, doing it in the spirit of collaboration and cooperation. President of the United States, Donald Trump, to his credit, was helpful in getting the Olympics to the United States of America, to get it down here in LA. We thank him for that. This is an opportunity for him to shine, for this country to shine, for California and this community to shine. The opportunity with all of that and all that opportunity and that pride and spirit that comes from not just hosting those three iconic games and venues, but also the opportunity, I think, to rebuild at the same time. And that's why we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team of looking and reimagining LA 2.0, and we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
You just said you're organizing a Marshall Plan for the rebuilding of California. What is that Marshall Plan?
For
Tell
this
us about
region,
this Marshall
we're just
Plan.
starting to lay out. I mean, we're still fighting these fires, so we're already talking to city leaders. We're already talking to...
There's no Marshall Plan. Right?
Making shit up.
He sat in a room with people and someone said, we need a Marshall Plan. Okay. And now he goes out on television and says, don't worry, we have a Marshall Plan. What is it? Oh, well, we have a plan to have a plan, right? We held a meeting and decided we needed another meeting.
He called
Victory.
it LA 2.0. Yeah. I wanted LA 1.0. Don't tell me that you're going to come up with a plan to address something that you caused, right? The Marshall Plan was to rebuild Europe. Yeah. I don't want a rebuilt LA. I wanted the old LA. You should have had a plan in place that made sure you could protect LA while it was happening, not to rebuild it. And that really surprises me. He would say LA 2.0, because was this the plan? I mean, this is how it works.
If this is the Marshall Plan, then does that mean that Newsom is the Neville Chamberlain who appeased Hitler? I mean, is he Neville Chamberlain in this story? Right? Wow. Is he the idiots who said, oh, Hitler will stop at Poland. Oh, he'll stop at Czechoslovakia. Right? He's saying it's a Marshall Plan, but there has to be an enemy. Fire is fine. But there's also the people who let it go. And that's him.
Yeah. So
the people who let it go don't get to be in charge of the rebuilding.
2.0. Yeah.
He doesn't. And the bullshit meter is off the chart. I saw you squirming because it's uncomfortable to watch him. He thinks with the hair gel and talking with your hands like you're at an Italian wedding. He thinks he can bullshit his way through this.
Yeah.
He is a peak bullshit artist. He is a peak bullshit artist. You listen when he said, we're going to work with collaborations. I mean, he's spewing DEI without mentioning DEI. We need to make sure. What does it mean by have collaborative? Oh, it means we need to have all different organizations and groups. Oh, who are those groups? Oh, we need to make sure that we rebuild Los Angeles in a way that benefits the trans community and this community. That's the unsaid part of this. All of those buzzwords are all basically saying to all these careerists who like, oh yeah, I've dedicated my life to make sure Los Angeles has more queer spaces. There are people like that. Yeah. There are people like that who are licking their lips. You're saying I can have more queer spaces in LA? I'm in. Sign me up for that focus group.
LA.
Yeah, sign me up for that working project. I mean, you give them $100 and they will waste $99.
Yeah, and
that's being generous. That's being generous.
Yeah, but Max, he spent that 90 seconds of an answer not answering the question.
Yeah, didn't answer the question.
Nothing there. And when he did say we've got a Marshall Plan, and they pushed back, and the only pushback was, what is it?
Yeah.
He's got nothing. Well, we're working on it right now.
Yeah,
That's not good enough.
We had a meeting, and we came up with the fact that we need a Marshall Plan. Oh, then don't tell us that we're going to have one.
Yeah. Well, he's just trying to survive politically at this point. And he thought he was getting away with it because he got all animated at the end. He thought, this is going great. I'm hitting all the talking points that the marketing team says I need to hit. And the one thing he couldn't handle is when he actually has to tell the truth.
Yeah, no. And he also said something, I don't know if you caught it, talking about the benefits of the Olympics in LA. He's talking about how it's going to make LA look good. It's going to make the United States look good. He also said it's going to make Donald Trump look good. There are Democrats who are believing the opposition research. And what we all see, Donald Trump he's braggadocious. He likes to promote himself. I mean, they're actually out there trying to appeal to that side of him, thinking that this clip, that if Trump sees this clip, says, oh, well, I have to give Gavin Newsom everything he wants because then the Olympics will make me look good. They actually think that that's how they get things done. And I think what they're going to be shocked is Trump 2.0. They're going to come with him with this and say, okay, we need $4.5 billion, no strings attached. But, Mr. President, you're going to look so good when the Olympics go off. I think what they're going to find is Trump says, I don't care how good I look. We're not giving you $4.5 billion with no strings attached. There's going to be a rude awakening for all of these leftist liberals thinking that they can appeal to Trump's, not selfishness, but grandiose, braggadocious side.
Yeah, they're
going to get hit with a sled. Yeah, they're appealing to his ego. They're going to get hit with a sledgehammer, hit a brick wall when they realize it's not going to fly.
Right. Trump put his ego aside after the 2020 election. He realized it was only about the people. That is why he's different than the rest, because when he says he wants to do something, it's actually meant to be better for us. When Gavin Newsom says something, it's what's better for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. I think you still have a little bit of it with Trump. Like if someone goes on Fox News and promotes a book that says how wonderful Donald Trump is, Donald Trump will put out a post on Truth Social saying how great this author is, right? Because it's what he does.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between that and expecting flattery will get you $4-5 billion, no strings attached. Not going to work that way. It's not going to work that way at all. So we'll see. I don't think Gavin Newsom will be there to manage this. The thumbnail for our show today, I don't know if you saw it. Thumbnail for the show today is Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, Trudeau, fired. He's next. Fired. Trump on the other side, hired. He's not going to be able to escape this.
No. And right now it's just damage control. Make no mistake. Right now, Gavin Newsom is just sitting here asking the marketing team what he needs to say. He's spending his time asking the marketing team what he needs to say on TV. He's not sitting there figuring out how to save the Palisades. He's not figuring out how to get water into reservoirs. He's not figuring out how to lower taxes in California, right? I mean, the things that matter, Gavin Newsom is so far away from. Nobody realized it until there was dust coming out of the hydrants. Yeah. That's what it took.
Newsom yesterday, said that clearing the debris from the wildfires will take up to a year.
Great.
Up to a year. Now, that's a lot. It'll take up to a year if you don't allow the people who live there to actually go in, like what we've seen in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the reason why it takes up to a year. If you own property, you should be allowed to access that property and begin getting rid of stuff now. Right? Maybe that you have to have some logistics on who's going to be able to use these roads, right? That's fine. Maybe you have to figure out who gets the first dumpster. But you got to let people do this. It's going to take 9 months to a year because they're actually planning not to let people in for months, if not that entire time.
And the government can't do that. Like, it's your property. You have every right to go there and do it. So why keep the people out? Why is that always the playbook? We saw it in every disaster under the Biden administration. Keep everybody out. Like, I don't understand that move. People get stuff done so much faster than government. They'll have their own yards cleaned up. Like, people move stuff to the road so, government trucks can come by and collect all the debris. We've seen it under other administrations on how to clean it up. So why did the delay? Why do they want to sit there and say, we own this? I mean, why are they just flexing government muscle? There's got to be a point where people say, you either let me in or, there's the reason we have the First and Second Amendments, gang. It's for when corrupt government tells you can't go home.
Yeah, there is, it is beyond the pale that you still have people not allowed to get into their homes, but the media's allowed in, government's allowed in.
Yeah.
The TV trucks are allowed in. And again, it makes you wonder, who are these people actually representing? Right? Because when when illegal aliens need somewhere to live, they bend over backwards. They jump through hoops to close down schools, to let illegal aliens live in the schools and force everyone to keep their kids at home for a weekend, right? That's just what happens when there's cold weather coming to Chicago or New York, right? They bend over backwards. Now you have people say, I want to build a home. I have my property burned down. Okay, I need a place to live. I need to build my home. I need to build a home back. And I guarantee you, at every step of the way, the government is going to say no to these people.
Yeah. So who are they representing? Yeah. And that it's going to turn into a fight, man. And, it'll be a legal fight to start with. You have to let us in. Imagine when the Hollywood elite now are told they can't go home.
Yeah.
Or what happens if they let certain zip codes in, but not others?
Yeah.
Right? This is where you're going to start noticing that things are askew. And if you haven't already seen that, I can't help you. 2020 should have told you everything you needed to know about liberalism. And there's things we can't mention about that because YouTube will take us down so fast. But they don't represent you. Like, when you said that, who do these people represent? Those are our elected representatives. And if they're not representing the people that put them there in power, then the government has become corrupt to the point where it must be replaced.
The good news is Donald Trump is on the way. I saw a video of Trump Force One flying over the fires, dropping flame retardant. That's not literally going to happen, but he's on the way. He's on the way. And it's up to all of us to elevate these issues. Donald Trump is probably the most social media connected president we've ever had. He sees things. When things go viral, when things get promoted and shared around, he sees it. So it's up to all of us to advance these issues to him and to the people around him. He cares about what the people think versus Joe Biden, who's probably never actually tweeted anything out himself in his entire life, right? That's the old way of doing it. You had a staffer run your social media and everything's put through a committee, right? That's not Trump. That's not Trump at all. And it's not Trump's family and his inner circle. So it's up to all of us to elevate these issues. And it's not enough to say we won and we'll just take our foot off the gas. No, we have to win these fights. We have to drive all of these different issues across the finish line. That's only how it wins. That's only how we win. The fires in California are just one part of it, right? There's still an active court fight over whether boys can play in girls' sports, and schools have to be forced to allow it, right? That's at the appellate level. That's not going to go away. And at best, we've just been granted a 4-year reprieve. We got to make these victories and wins permanent. I say it on the issue of the Second Amendment all the time. Donald Trump, he says that he's done enough for gun owners because he stopped the left's assault on the Second Amendment. Donald Trump gave us the ban on bump stocks, which was overturned. Overturned after I took a hacksaw to my bump stock because the alternative was facing 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm on television holding these things up. I'm not just going to keep that in my possession. Took a hacksaw to it. Where's the recourse for me? There is none, right? So we need more than that. We have to take these fights across the finish line, and it's not up to our elected officials. It's up to all of us.
Yeah.
Give you the final word.
You said something that really struck with me, is that Donald Trump cares about what people think, but liberals and Democrats only care about what they think, and they think for you.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous place to be.
Very dangerous place to be. That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like us, give us a thumbs up. Follow us. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on X. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So subscribe, watch, tune in for that. We also have the audio edition of the podcast. We're all caught up. Audio edition of the podcast. You can listen as you go about your day. We try and keep this as audio friendly as possible. So go ahead and follow us. Give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, Audible. All great places. Listen as you go about your day, your commute, and whatnot. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Ammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together 7 more days.
See you next time.
See you next time.